hard act to follow. I don't think there's a gathering that has inspired me more to stay the course as a farmer than this one right here. And I think it's pretty intoxicating to come to EcoFarm, and there should be a sign that says, if you attend to EcoFarm, you may get addicted to farming. I first came to EcoFarm in 1993. I've attended every single conference since. And I tell you, I always get my fix, and I'm still addicted. So thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about our story of Live Earth Farm. You know, there's no way I could tell this story if there wasn't a lot of people behind it. And I want to just acknowledge my wife, Constance, and my kids, David and Elisa. They're really here. I couldn't tell this story without them. These are younger pictures of them. David is now 24. This was our first year farming, and I caught him, you know, playing peekaboo underneath a burlap bag. And this is Elisa. She's now 14, and I thought it was a pretty cute picture. So, you know, I believe farms are living organisms. And these farms are really nourished by many interconnected and often invisible networks of supportive relationships. Family, friends, mentors, advisors, you know, our employees, our family of employees and their kids, and a team of on-farm educators that we have, committed CSA members and, you know, farmers market customers and businesses that buy our produce, grocery stores and businesses that supply us with seeds and fertilizer and so many more. And of course, the natural environment that supports our soil, our plants and our animals. You know, farms are really places, as was said, that where if we give access to our community to come to farms, they have incredible transformative moments. I think they're life-changing. And when you see kids on the farm, I always say, you know, there's a lot of challenges when you farm every day and you may want to give up on farming, but when you see children running around on the farm, you know why you want to farm. These are just a few pictures. This was Father's Day. We organized a day, the fathers and kids to harvest potatoes. And this is one of the kids running across the field with his just recently harvested potatoes. I just wanted to go back. This was a Food What program youth who knew, I don't know if she knew that we're going to harvest peppers, but it sure matched the color. And yeah, so let me just go forward. And we have U-picks, and it's just, you can just see it in the expression of people's faces when they harvest food right on the farm or pick fruit right off a plant, put it in their mouth. You know, it's pretty transformative. So how did it all begin? You know, when you put anyone in touch with soil and what that soil brings forth, the nourishment that it brings forth, I think it touches that inner farmer within you. And it sure happened for me. This was me when I was 3. And my mom just shared this picture when I graduated from college, agriculture, studying agriculture, and she said, this is how it started. And I remember this chicken. I loved that chicken. She brought that chicken home, and we had a pretty big garden, but I was running behind that chicken. I wanted to find out how she, you know, got those eggs in her nest. And so one time, sitting in the nest, I came up to her and I just put my hand right underneath her. And I waited and she wouldn't move, and sure enough, she laid an egg right into my hand. So there's a lot of transformative moments, you know, that you can think of. And as I grew up in Ecuador, as was mentioned, you know, very agrarian culture, deeply rooted in agriculture, I was inspired to go to college and study agriculture. I joined the Peace Corps. I wanted to see other parts of the world, and I was fortunate to go to the South Pacific to an island called Samoa, and lived and worked with farmers for 2.5 years, and it was an amazing time. There were mostly subsistence type farming practices that were being practiced there, and it was the most devastating thing for me to see how pesticides and fertilizers were starting to really affect their environment and poisoning the people there. So when I came back to the United States, I really wanted to see what agriculture's impact were on the environment. Got a job here in San Francisco with the EPA and joined their pesticides program, and realized that the whole system was rigged. But I did, really have an interest in the organic farming practices that I was hearing about, and it came to EcoFarm, and that was in 1993. And that's when the genie, my farmer genie, basically came out of the bottle and never went back. So with that, my wife said, when I said, look, let's try this. Our son was just born. We were in San Francisco. We quit our jobs, came to Santa Cruz, and I joined the Farm and Garden Apprenticeship Program for 7 months, the most transformative 7 months that I've ever had. And it was Jared Lawson who inspired me, because he introduced the concept of CSAs to that program in that year. And I couldn't thank him enough, and all the people around, because it was that which really got us to go to Watsonville and start a CSA farm on 2 acres of an overgrazed pasture right here overlooking the Pajaro Valley. And it was a horse farm on a hillside, and it was all overgrazed, and this is where we kind of got started. And if Ann Lindsay is here, she was the first one to come and check us out and see how we were doing that first spring. And I said, all right, let's plant some potatoes. And sure enough, she started stretching and did her downward dog, and we planted our first potatoes. So this was our first and second year garden. It looked very much like the Casvis garden. And I was always got very inspired by the John Jevons and Alan Chadwick, French intensive double digging practices. And that's really where it all began. From then on, we just said, how can we get this going? And we had no community connection really with Watsonville and with Santa Cruz, and we just said, let's open the farm up, let's bring people to the farm, let's invite them, and let's start this CSA. And we had field days, we brought schools in, we started mini camps for the families. The parents and the children came over on weekends and camped out. And it was all about, seed to fork kind of themes. We spent the day together. We had special projects like building this cob oven, which we then used for making pizza and bread. We had harvest festivals, and just simple get-togethers. This was kind of a little later on, and you might, Taylor, you might remember. Taylor Brady, long time, like 10-year employee now on the farm. This was her dad, and had the pumpkin head on. And she didn't even know it was him at first time. So anyway, we of course had to celebrate the seasons. The solstice was just around my birthday, so I had a big party, invited everybody. We made a big fire, and of course we all started dancing around it. So we really, gave the public and the community and everybody access to the farm, and it worked for us. The CSA grew rapidly. We had from 25 members in the first year, 75, 100, and 200, and by 2008 we had almost 900 members. And this is just one of our delivery trucks to indicate that it grew pretty fast. We needed a delivery truck, of course. And, as we grew, a lot of challenges kind of appeared. And I remember Amigo Bob, it was 10 years into it. He came and it was his farm tour, and there's nobody like him that can do a farm tour. He came up and he said, "Tom, you're doing a good job. We'll see you in 10 years, see if you're still here." So he knew intrinsically that the next 10 years were going to be really challenging. So we grew, and I wanted to say we got into some farmers markets early on as well. And with the growth, of course, we had to look for more land. And we were lucky that there was a Pioneer Ranch just down the road from us. We were able to lease 10 acres right next to Dick Pichotte, who started organic farming at that time with Lakeside Organic, and he was leasing land on that same ranch. He got the bigger piece, of course, and I got the more marginal corner of it. So this was the corner of the ranch that kind of surrounded a beautiful pond, and I just loved it, even though maybe the soil wasn't that great. And later on, we got another little piece of ground, about 10 acres on Casserly Road. And, you know, we had, in about 10 years, we were farming 4 different parcels, some as far as 10 miles away from our home ranch. And with the land, of course, what happens? You need labor. And we couldn't keep these 3 guys. Some of you might recognize. Jared Lawson, I don't know if he's around, on the right-hand side, co-founder of Pie Ranch. They were really instrumental in helping us out in the first years. But you know that you need a skilled labor force of, you know, family of employees that can carry you day in and day out. And it was Juan Morales who came. In the third year. In the third year, he came and said, "Tom, do you want some help?" And we were just starting to farm 10 acres down the road. And he said, "I'm tired of farming on conventional farms." And so Juan is the salt of the earth. And he knows more about tractor driving. He started when he was 14 years old. He can make rows like you won't believe. They're straighter than anything you've ever seen. He knows about mechanics, about implements. And we joined together. You know, we were really a complementary team. I wanted to do organics, and he knew a lot of the mechanics. So we got together, and we started to farm, you know, the 10 to 20 acres. And together with his family, that as we grew, they joined us. And today, the Morales clan is really the core of our family of employees on the farm, mostly husband and wife teams. And we are committed to making sure we can, you know, provide them healthy livelihood for their kids, for their families, housing, and benefits. Otherwise, this wouldn't work. And I tell you, the most important thing in today's world is to give our farm workers in this country the rights and the conditions to live a decent life and I wouldn't be standing here right now because most of them are at the farm right now prepping for the farmers markets this weekend, and we, you know, we're able to give year-round employment, and at least one party in each of the families work year-round and have an income, and that was because the CSA was committed. The CSA members knew in the early years that the only way we can keep farming is if they can make that commitment and share some of the risk that's involved in, you know, growing food. And that was when we decided to go and, you know, have a winter CSA, have a summer CSA, and it was about 40 weeks throughout the year that we started farming or offering shares. This is Luis, who came also very much in the early years. Everybody on our team has to do many different things. You know, you can't just be driving tractors. You have to wash the carrots. You have to deliver, you know, shares to the CSA site hosts. And you have to go to farmers markets. It's about planting, it's about weeding, it's about irrigating. So everybody has a lot of jobs, and you know, everybody has to pitch in, and there's not just one responsibility. So we have, you know, we're about half women, half men, and it's a great working environment. We help each other out where we need, and we all have our special skills, and we know that. Planting peppers, planting potatoes. Of course, the most back-breaking crop, I think, in this state is strawberries, as you all know. When you get a basket of strawberries, you better pay your $4 or $5 for it. Yeah. There's nothing like strawberries, I tell you. They're so good, but they are so hard to grow. It's a really difficult crop, but it is one of our, cash crops. And here we are. We grow blackberries, of course. We're in Watsonville, and we grow strawberries and we grow raspberries. And this is Juana, Luis's wife. She not only picks, she's our the one that makes sure that every share is packed correctly, and the whole CSA pack is in her hands. Irrigation, such a huge job. Anybody who wants to learn about farming, he better start as an irrigator, because that's one of the hardest jobs on the farm. Nobody ever tell you that it's unskilled labor. When you walk around an apple tree and you don't know what to do, and you can tell everybody who comes to tour our farm, I take into the apple orchard and I tell them about the lowly apple that they don't want to pay enough for, right? It takes so much to get an apple into your hands. And I think, the Pajaro Valley was once the largest growing apple region in the country. And today we don't have as many orchards anymore. And there's not enough workers anymore to do, the pruning, the picking, the thinning. And so it's one of the crops, I think, that is dying in this area. And we really need to revive it. This is Reynaldo, who has been with us for probably 15 years. And he came to Watsonville for the apples. And he single-handedly thinned and harvested our 8 acres of apples last year, and he's still with us, and he loves every minute of it. These are our galas. Juanillo on his tractor listing beds for strawberries. So the diversity of crops, the CSA really forced us to stay diverse, because members want to have a diverse content in their share, week in and week out. And so the planning, the crop planning, the cropping techniques and everything has to kind of fall together. And when I was farming next to Dick Pichot on Lakeside, it kind of taught me how to be really tight with your crop plan and being able to grow your succession planting. Succession planting is probably the key when it comes to diversity and to have things available in abundance and in quality. And so, we grow everything from seed in our own greenhouses. We do, hire out some of the services with some of the nurseries for more critical crops, but about 80%, 90% of our transplants all come from our own greenhouses. And as we grew, we of course had to adapt our equipment to the scale that we were growing into. And this was our first crawler tractor, a kit that I received. I put that together on the farm, and this is David, our son. It was a little toy. He could almost drive it. And it had a little front loader, had a little PTO in the back, and it was the perfect, if you ever want to have a scale, a little, toy crawler tractor, this is the one, Magnatrack. And then we had to, of course, get larger tractors. And Juan, of course, and with his skills, then started really using the bigger tractors. And this is one of our crawler tractors later on for the orchards. And we got implements to, get better at weeding. And this is a flame weeder, after we've sown some carrots. And transplanters and spaders, and this is right to the right, you might know, this is kind of like a neat little tool for in-row orchard cultivation between trees. It goes in and out of, it's a rotary harrow. We made a lot of compost. We had access to Far West Fungi's little substrate that they didn't use anymore, and we used manure from all over the place, and we made compost for a lot of years, and till some of the regulations, water quality concerns and things like that on the farm, we just had to shut it down. So we're buying most of our compost now. Cover cropping is, of course, at the heart of what we do as a rotation. And you can see we grew into more of a really row crop operation over the years. Potatoes and cauliflower, some garlic. Dry farm tomatoes here on the coast is a real cash crop for us. The early girls, and it's a big crop, and everybody loves them. There's, of course, some of the challenges in the production. I don't know if you heard of the bagrada bug. For 2 years, it really gave us a run for our money. It was crazy in the early years. I still remember it today. We transplanted all of our fall and winter brassicas, and suddenly they were all eaten up by these guys. It was terrible. The weather, of course, always unpredictable. And I think the future for us to have year-round, of course, production, and we are probably, I've never really liked these hoop houses, but now I'm seeing the kind of the wisdom behind it is we need them. We need to be able to grow under hoops and have, year-round production. This is a beautiful buckwheat cover crop right in front. And so I want to say the challenges, the big challenge that happened for us on the farm, 2008, 2009, you all know, economic recession. And suddenly, the whole concept of the CSA, which is really one of sharing the risk of growing food, right? The communities supporting you, suddenly collapsed. And you CSA farmers out there, you know kind of what I'm talking about. The CSAs didn't grow anymore. We had attrition. Members just couldn't pay up front anymore. We used to get checks for the entire season in January. It was our money. This is what we needed. It was to get us through the winter and go into the summer. And so we had to ask ourselves some tough questions. I love this picture. It's kind of like the old crone asking us to look a little deeper. And this is our daughter. And so that's what we had to do. We had to look at the inefficiencies of our farm when that happens, when that CSA collapsed. We went from 900 suddenly to 600 members, and we didn't have a lot of other outlets. We didn't have other markets, and so that's what we had to do. We had to revamp, retell our stories. Think of our CSA as something different, and what we had to do is to get on the online kind of bandwagon, the internet. And we were approached by Farmigo in the early years. They developed their program around our CSA, believe it or not. And today we still have that program, and we are able to let members customize their shares. It was the only way we were able to stop the attrition and give members, the flexibility in payment and ordering and everything else that the early members, would never have thought of. But today, that's the name of the game. Every box of ours is customized. People click and click and click, and on Monday, I get to print out a report for the harvest. This is basically, one member's account online. They can do whatever they want with it, stop it, change it. The good thing is they can, it's very transparent. They know what they have to pay. In the past, it was like, all right, this is about $25 worth or $30 worth. And so we have a lot more oversight. And they're not committed like they used to. They just make an upfront payment or have a payment plan, reoccurring payment plan. Like this one would have like $100, so it can go up to $2,000 if you want. And then the money just gets taken off on a weekly basis as they make orders. And this is kind of the behind the scenes. Jason, you gave me those pictures, and it's nice. We have our Csa Coordinator right here, who has basically held this program together. And I tell you, I could not sit answering those phone calls every single day about why did I get a bunch of carrots that was not quite full, And so we have to actually give them credit. Jason is so nice, he will actually give him credit, something that we would never have done in the past. We went plasticless. This was really important. And luckily, there is a company here in Watsonville, Sombrero, who has really transformed that. Our baskets now, we can, there are not any more plastic, so we can offer that. All right, farmers markets. It was the place to be in a downturn because people want to know, they want to have control about how to spend their food dollars. And to be in the farmers markets is where people went to shop. It really helped to have farmers markets. So when we increased the number of farmers markets that we went to, our philosophy is to stay as local as we can, maybe in an hour and a half drive from the farm, because we want those customers to be able to come to the farm and see where their food comes from, interact with them. And I think that there's more loyalty. And some of the CSA members that don't want to be CSA members anymore, they will come and then honor us at the farmers markets. So farmers markets are key in our operation. And this is Gerardo, our farmers market king here in Santa Cruz, and he's here today. And he started. He's the youngest in the Morales clan, and he started in the field. He didn't quite like it that much. But he developed the skills to really go into the sales and the marketing, and he is just irreplaceable to represent us. He can look a customer in the face, and he will say, "This is what you're gonna have to pay for this because I know how it was grown." And Taylor, who's here today, she was Gerardo's mentor, and she started really to move us into, this is our market stand. She moved us into looking at the larger market and the grocery, the retail groceries and the wholesale distributors, and looking really beyond just that direct marketing approach. And luckily, in the Bay Area and in our vicinity, we have so many stores that have shared the philosophy of honoring the small-scale farmers and having a more direct relationship. So I'm really happy. Okay, a couple minutes. Woo, I'm going way too slow. So fast forward, there are companies that really have helped us. We basically moved into selling direct to the buy rights, the new leaves, and also the good eggs, and it's been a great way to expand our market. And they now about 35% of our gross income. And our apples, we've started to really sort them and polish them so we can sell them. The U-Pick on our farm is of course a big and up and coming, I hope, program. We have a weekend farm stand, and we have U-Picks for strawberries, dry farm tomatoes, apples, blackberries, and with the internet, with the social media, it's amazing how many people you get, sometimes way too many. On Mother's Day, we had so many people come over to the strawberry you pick that they finished up almost 2 acres in 2 days. Yeah. So I think that's an exciting maybe turn. So the land inefficiencies, right? We were farming many different plots, and we were in 2008 approached by our neighbor farmer. They wanted to sell the ranch, and we made the move, and we are so lucky today that we were able to consolidate everything into one contiguous land piece. And this is the farm today. We are not farming anymore on any of the leased parcels that we started with. With that, of course, there's a lot of land stewardship, and with Wild Farm Alliance and CAF, Sam Earnshaw, of course, he jumped right in, and he made us, and we looked at the farm, and we said, let's put in the hedgerows, let's, have different filter strips, with native grasses, and we just put in about, I think it must have been 10, 12 projects that today people can walk around and visit with a map in their hands and get to see the farm. So it's a beautiful landscape, a lot of wildlife, and we opened it up so there's no fencing, a lot of beneficials, of course, that come with all of that. Lastly, please give me just a few more minutes. I have to talk about our education program. When we went through that downturn in 2008, I wanted to decouple the business from all the outreach and education that we were doing because we had to focus on our business. And it was my wife, Constance, who said, this is why we started farming. Let's not kill it. So she said, let's form a nonprofit. And we formed a nonprofit, Farm Discovery. And this is Jessica, who joined us. And if it wasn't for Jessica, our executive director and the team of on-farm educators, we would not have Farm Discovery today. There's 3,000 kids that come through the farm every year, and there's 8 programs that we are offering. And these 8 programs, I think, are just unbelievable. We're focusing on the Pajaro Valley where the need is greatest. We have other schools, also private schools that come. We get funding and scholarships today. 45% of our programs are being funded to help have kids come to the farm, free busing. And the amazing thing about it is that they can work and be interactive right with the farm's business, with the people that are working on the farm. And there's something really special to be, on a working farm and learning on a working farm. We have spaces where the kids can learn. They have their little garden and they have smaller spaces, but the whole entire farm, we have about 150 acres of land, 50 of which are being farmed, but the rest is just in wild spaces. So there's a great opportunity for the kids to see cultivated and wild landscapes next to each other and really be connected to nature. And I'm just going to go through these. And I just wanted to point out, education on the farm is probably where it's at. We want to see that keeps growing. We have collaborative efforts with Food What, with Williams College came out this just last week. There's so many people that can benefit from coming out to the farm, interact with the animals, the chickens. This is Food What, harvesting carrots. And the collaboration, I think, is where it's at, that we can have a much larger impact in our communities as we collaborate and bring food and farming and people together and create healthy communities. And this is, we have fundraisers on the farm. This last one was a sheep to shawl event that we do every spring. And we have a space where we can celebrate. And let's not forget, that's also what it's about, is to celebrate the land, to celebrate, the food and the people that are being nourished from that land. So with that, I think resilience and fertility comes from biodiversity, from relationships, that we can form with nature, with each other, and to balance that when the need arises, This is our logo that my mother-in-law helped inspired. And with that, I want to thank you all.